Hey guys, it's Rush. Hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the channel. This video today, I wanted to do some talking about Street Fighter 6 in comparison to City of the Wolves. So I'm still doing content for both games, but I feel it's important that I cover some of the reasons why I'm enjoying City of the Wolves more over Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 is the game I would rather be playing. I am a Street Fighter player, but there are elements of the game that I just personally struggle with, and this video will illustrate exactly what those reasons are. So it's not bashing the game, it's just me articulating exactly why I struggle with 6 and what I would like to see improved in the future. So Street Fighter 6, you boot the game up and it looks amazing. But what I will say is, in terms of the graphics, to me, it doesn't strike me as a Street Fighter game. If you look at Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, it has a much more cartoony style. Whereas Street Fighter 6 has a more grown-up style. It looks more similar, to me at least, to Mortal Kombat. The characters look more realistic. Even though you can see the characters and you know who they are, the models, the design look more grown up. I feel this is a deliberate design choice for Street Fighter 6 because of esports, because they wanted to appeal to a larger audience, and it has worked. It's been successful for Capcom. City of the Wolves is more clean but vibrant. The characters really pop in this game, and I like that art style. I like the design. The attacks as well, so the attacks with the mechanics, the particles, the effects you see on the attacks really stand out and are very, very cool. For Street Fighter with the effects, as you know, you have this paint splash type effect. They went for this graffiti design type thing with the attacks and the moves and the mechanics, and that's what you see with the effects. You see a lot of these splashes of paint in different color, which is cool. I'll definitely say when I first saw it, I thought it was cool, but it's not my preferred art style. There's just something about it that looks dull, grainy. It doesn't really pop or stand out. The sound effects are interesting also. So I remember the sound effects from Street Fighter 4, and they almost feel iconic. And the sound effects in 5, because I play that game so much, are music to my ears. But with 6, the sound effects and the impact of strikes, to me at least, sounds more like gunshots or fireworks. I don't know if you've noticed this, maybe I'm talking crazy here, but just listen. If I crank up the volume, listen to the sound effects. I'm not crazy, right? That definitely sounds like a shotgun in Doom going off and blowing up zombies. That's how it sounds, at least to me. It was a little like that in Street Fighter 5. I remember some sound effects sounding like glass shattering or explosions, but not to this extent. Again, I feel this tapped into Capcom's narrative of there being sound effects, explosions, bright colours on the screen to really draw in the audience, just to appeal to a lot of people. It almost gives it like an action movie type vibe. I know this sounds very weird, but that's my perception of the approach they've gone for with this particular game. So looking at City of the Wolves from a visual perspective and the audio, I've deliberately gone for a stage that's similar to the Street Fighter 6 stage. So it is like a nature stage, you know, trees in the background, and the visuals, to me at least, are much more clean. I like the way the trees look, I like the color palette. This is quite a dull stage, if I'm honest, and the yellow Ken kind of blends in with the color theme of this stage, but the visuals are clean, they're crisp, and they're very like pleasing to the eyes. It's not cluttered, not noisy, it's very clean. And it's the same for the characters. They have a cartoony look. This reminds me that the way the characters look are cartoony. They've got like a cell shaded sort of design, the way they're actually implemented in the game. The textures have a more cartoony sort of look, more like a comic book look. But I think it really stands out. I love the way it looks. People have said that it looks cheap or tacky or lacking. I disagree. I think it really brings the characters to life. The backgrounds, I'd say the backgrounds differ. The art style of the backgrounds do not match the characters, but I like the cleanness of the background and that vibrancy of the characters. And then you talk about sound effects. These strikes have serious impact. The sound effects remind me of older beat-em-ups and fighting games, but it also gives me sort of like a martial arts movie vibe. It does remind me of those older martial arts movies from the sound effects they use in this particular game. So with the visuals and audio out the way, let's now talk about the core gameplay of Street Fighter 6. So Street Fighter 6, in my opinion, is split into two different games entirely. There is the core game that is Street Fighter. You have normal attacks for hitting, attacking the opponent, drain their health bar. You whiff punish, you hit confirm. And then you have special moves that have different purposes. So you have projectiles, you have DPs, anti-airs, you have regular anti-airs. I spoke about whiff punishment. This is like core Street Fighter 6 stuff to me. And you obviously have movement. So you have back dashing, forward dashing, you have jumping. This is core Street Fighter 6 to me. But then you have the Street Fighter 6 system itself. So you have the core Street Fighter mechanics, which exist in Street Fighter 6, as I just said. But you have system mechanics that are tied to your gauge, your drive bar. Your drive bar is full at the beginning of a match. This gives you access to a parry button to defend your drive bar. It does drain when you press it, but you can defend it. If the opponent attacks you whilst you're in that stance, your drive bar goes up rather than depleting. If you block, you can tap parry and go into what's called a drive rush, which is probably the main problematic thing for me, but we'll talk about that later. You have drive impact, which is it can be used as a punish in some situations, but it can be used as like a panic button. The opponent then has to react to that response with their own response, or they'll get hit by it and get punished quite heavily. And then you have your EX moves. They're called overdrive moves in Street Fighter 6, but these are also tied to the drive bar and will make the drive bar drain. Now, with the drive system, if you tap parry, this is all stuff you know if you played Street Fighter 6. This limits movement. You cannot move whilst in this stance, and it has a lot of recovery. The hold back, I'm actually holding back now. You can see it takes a while for Ken to walk backwards. Now, this is one of my first complaints. I understand why we need parry in this game, but I don't like that it's tied to movement in that respect. You can parry and you cannot move. I don't like this. So if you are trying to parry something and let's say the attack whiffs and your parry whiffs, this puts you in a recovery state. So I don't like the fact that movement is tied to this parry mechanic. So with City of the Wolves, there's no parry, there's no dedicated button or mechanic to give you a parry. It's integrated with blocking. If you block with precise timing, you will get what's called a just defend. I'll get the dummy to do a strike against me. So if I block regularly, my rev meter at the bottom is increasing. So increasing rev meter is the same as depleting drive bar in Street Fighter 6. If I block with particular timing, it actually reduces the bar building up. I have to tap block at particular times. So it's integrated into the blocking in this game. And if you get the right timing, you can actually cancel it into a super, but there's no slowdown for that option. You have to block and then cancel. So a strategy that people use is when they tap parry, if they see it whiff, rather than just tapping it, they'll actually hold it. And if they see the attack whiff and their parry whiff, they'll tap forward. Now this causes a screen freeze, which we'll talk about in a second, but that enables you to charge at your opponent. You're tied into this dash. This dash will then have options out of it depending on what you want to do. So what people will do out of drive rushes is when they are in a parry state, or if they want a raw drive rush, they'll press buttons, because the button out of drive rush has more frame advantage. But another problem area of this mechanic is it can be cancelled into non-normal attacks. So there I did a throw. You notice, even though the drive rush is set to go a certain distance if you hold down back, that's me holding down back, you can see Ken covers a large amount of distance. But if I input a special attack, a throw, or even drive impact, you can see that it stops my movement much earlier in the drive rush. This is problem number 2. So number 1, I don't like that parry is tied to movement in the respect of recovery. So it's a hard commit and it will stick you to the ground. Second thing is I don't like that there's so many variables out of drive rush. I don't like that you can, if you look at this, the jab cancels at a certain time. I have to move a certain amount of time before the jab comes out. But these non-normals, these special attacks or these other techniques can cancel early at the drive rush. It creates so many problems when it comes to checking the drive rush and counting the drive rush, to the point sometimes for the 1 bar drive rush, because it only costs 1 bar of drive, it is better just not to do anything. So my third personal dislike with this game is tied to drive rush. Very ironic, right? This is why I hate drive rush, and I think it's one of the worst mechanics I've experienced in a fighting game. All the fighting games I played, the worst one. So drive rush, if you don't know this, there is a window of time, I believe it's 11 frames from when the opponent does drive rush, that the screen freeze has to eat your inputs. Now, there's a lot of debate around this about people saying you hold the button to get your jump, or you double tap your button, or you just don't press at that time, or the screen freeze doesn't eat input. There's a lot of discussion around how this operates and what you should do. It will happen when you least expect it. You cannot react to the drive rush to then delay your timing to ensure your input comes out. I'll show it you now. I've got the, you can see the control pad is in the overlay. I'm going to tap up on the control pad. I'm going to press up deliberately at a time because I know the timing of this when I know when it's coming to eat the input. So I'm going to keep tapping up, and you will see that when Ryu, I don't know why I said Ryu, I've gone old school there. Ryu does the drive rush. You'll see it will eat the up input will not come out. You'll see it flash on my pad, but Ken will not jump. So check this out. There's one. There's two. 3. 4. So again, in comparison to City of the Wolves, in terms of approach, you will be using things like running, you'll be jumping, you'll be doing your short hops to get in. You can throw out some moves and sort of cancel into EXs. We'll talk about that a little later in the combo section. So you can throw out moves like that and buffer things behind them to approach your opponent. That does cause layers of mix-ups, but you're not worried about drive rush, like someone running at you and throwing mix-ups at you. So I don't have to be worried about getting clipped by crouch and medium kick into drive rush. I don't have to worry about my buttons getting eaten. I don't have to worry about if I do backdash at the same time they drive rush and then they rush in at me and then can punish my backdash because the drive rush pushes them forward faster than my backdash occurs. Because if you don't know that in Street Fighter 6, the drive rush enables the person who uses it to move fast, but the other person slows down. So if I backdash at the same time as somebody doing a drive rush, I can't block because my backdash is slowed down whilst they charge at me. So I can backdash, I can move, I can walk in and out of range to avoid lows a little easier in this game. And I really like that about this game. And the fact that my inputs aren't getting eaten as well makes a massive difference. So the next item in the list is anti-air DP. Anti-air DP in this game is so annoying. So from my experience to anti-air DP in this game, it's always best, I'm failing to do it right now, from crouching. Do it from crouching, you have a better chance of landing your anti-air DPs. And that was an autocorrect I did there. It also avoids certain buttons. So certain buttons are great at beating your anti-airs if you stand. So to do it from crouching is a much better way to deal with jump-ins. But you have to delay your DPs, because if you do them too early, they have a chance to whiff. But if you delay them too long, the opponent can empty jump. You can just empty jump in and bait the DP because they're so slow. But DPs just generally have this habit of going the wrong way in this game. I've seen videos of the opponent being on the other side of you when you do a crosscut DP, but still your DP goes the wrong way. It does not autocorrect and follow the direction of the opponent. It will still come out backwards. It's a very common thing in this game, and it's something that everyone experiences when they play Street Fighter 6 if you have an anti-air DP character. To the point, I actually think jump back mediums and lights are a good approach. Or I can even see why people tap parry. Just tap parry rather than risking the DP, because the parry comes out very quickly. And I'd even say that the actual risk of tapping parry is less than a whiff DP. So let's talk about anti-airs in this game. So anti-air DP in City of the Wolves. So you can't input a Dragon Punch from crouching. It doesn't work. You'll just get a crouching attack, which is weird. For me, coming from Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 6, crouching DP, super important. So you can't get it from a crouching position. However, it's not too difficult to adjust and stand and input DP. It's not too bad. It takes some time to get used to that, but you can do that. So with regards to the angles and anti-air DP, it's very easy to gauge where the opponent is and what input you should use to anti-air DP. This is a half circle as I go over that I'm using to crosscut. Close range, you can just wait, get close to the floor. It's very rare that I've seen DPs go the wrong way. You can move, walk under, just to create that space. Auto-correct as well, I think is pretty good. That was an auto-correct. It feels great. Really, really nice doing anti-air DP in this game, which is a breath of fresh air coming from those Street Fighter 6 DPs. But something else you need to be aware of with anti-air DP in this game is there's mix-ups. The opponent can actually block, just defend a DP. Try and get the dummy Ken to do it. There's 2 recordings on now. There we go. So we did a just defend on the DP. And that can cause situations where if they just defend the light punch DP, the invincible one, they can actually get a punish after the just defend. So the way you get around that is, with Ken specifically and other characters, you use heavy DP because it's multi-hitting. But not just that, you want to use what's called a break on the heavy DP. So if they just defend it, the break makes it safe. So you actually, I think you're -2 on block from heavy punch DP into break. So I can break it to make myself safe, but if it hits, I can hit confirm it into a super or another follow-up. So there's mind games with anti-airing as well. So not only are anti-airs great, there's mind games behind it. So I will always do a heavy punch DP break and then go for an option behind it on the hit. Just to show you the frame data on block, if I do a light punch DP, which is the invincible DP, that is -32 on block. If I do a heavy DP, which is not invincible, that is -32 on block as well. But if I break it, it's now -2, so it's safe. So that's why I use that option as an anti-air. So the anti-air situation, there's more to think about, but the consistency of anti-airs in this game is really, really good. I love it. So the final point I want to raise in this video is combo structure and the way meter is handled with combos in this game. You will be doing generally 1 or 2 things during combos. For the most part, like generally people will do one of these 2 things or these 2 things in conjunction. So the first thing is buffering parry behind mediums or heavies to get a drive rush. It's a very common thing people do. You'll see people whiffing mediums all day long in neutral. And they're obviously buffering parry behind them to get a drive rush. On hits, you get a combo, which will probably lead to corner carry, and on block, you get a mix-up, which already, to me, is just really stupid. The other thing that you'll do is you will likely end your combo with a super. Now, the reason you do that is because the scaling, especially after drive rush of supers, is better than just going for a standard ender or an EX/OD ender. And the super attack will actually attack the drive bar. It will drain the opponent's drive bar. But what this does is the combo routing and structure and rules in this game, like the optimal ways to use meter, mean that the more interesting combo routes will only be used for things like flashy combos to do cool stuff for like clips, rather than it actually being useful in matches. Not in all situations, but I feel it's a common rule for the entire cast. They want to do a drive rush, they want to end in super. That's the best way to do things in Street Fighter 6. But you lose so much combo potential and like interesting routing because of these rules. But not only that, certain combos you can do and are potentially there to tap into either do no damage or they're completely crap to use because of the amount of resources required. So as an example, let's use this combo route. It's the punish counter route. It's not a route that you'll see anyone use. And you can see for spending all of my drive bar through 3 OD moves, that's all I used, damage is very low. It's cool that I didn't spend super, but that's why you want to use super, because your super combo enders will net a lot more damage in regards to the resource you're spending. There's no incentive to go for these more interesting routes and going for more EX moves in your combo routine because it's not an optimal way to do things in this game. So with combos, it falls back to what I said before. You're incentivized to do something like this, which is better damage and better use of your meter. I've held on to 3 bars of drive there because I went for a drive rush cancel combo and ended with super. Ending with super in that way does more damage. You could go for a combo like this, which uses EX moves and still does good damage, but there's still no point in doing it. The amount of drive I'm at now, I've lost 5 bars now instead of the 3. Damage is similar, and it's more execution, so you're again not incentivized for going for these EX juggles and these more interesting routes. So combo routing in this game is crazy. So again, coming from Street Fighter 5, I relished in juggles. So my character is Ken again in Street Fighter 5. Combined with his V-Trigger 1, you'd get some very cool combos, very situational combos, but you'd get pretty insane juggles as well, just from a regular anti-air DP, trade DPs, very specific situations. You got some very cool juggles. You didn't always need V-Trigger for them as well. And I love that about Ken in Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 6 does have combos and there are juggles, but you see them less, I feel, and you tend to go for more easy routes or grounded routes. Drive Rush is king when it comes to combos in Street Fighter 6. But in this game, there's so many options, there's so many routes you can take, and it's because of the way combos work. So if you don't know, in this game, you cancel EX moves into other EX moves. That's how this game works in combo routing, but you can combine that with the break option, the break system. So you can actually break certain moves. So you don't actually have to use EX, for example. So if I do another combo route, I'll go into EX Tatsu, but for the combo route, I will break the EX Tatsu. Looks like that. And that enables me to go for a juggle, heavy punch DP. Now let me break the heavy punch DP. And then I get another DP after it. So you can utilize the EX cancels, but also you can use the break to create juggles. And then if you want to route into Super, your two options are to either juggle into Super, or you cancel an EX move into Super. So there's two ways to route into your Super attacks. But one of your incentives for ending a combo with an EX move is the fact that it causes a hard knockdown. The opponent cannot roll on wake up. They cannot mix up their wake up options if you knock them down with a EX move. It's the same rule for throws and Super as well, but it's cool that you get that property after an EX move knockdown. So this is why you want to end your combos in this game with an EX move or a Super. The other interesting thing about meter in this game and combos is the rev gauge is split into 4 sections. You can see at the moment it's at 0%. If I do 4 OD fireballs, each one consumes 25% of the gauge. So that means I can do 4 individual EX moves before I burn out. So here's an example of me doing a EX Tatsu, doing a break from the EX Tatsu, doing EX DP. That was 50%. But if you cancel an EX move into another EX move, you get a discount on the amount of rev gauge that it consumes. With each cancel you do, the amount of rev gauge that's used actually decreases. That was 3 EX moves, it only cost me 50%. And if I get any regular specials that hit during these combo routes, they actually give me my rev gauge back. So there's many ways to spend your meter, rebuild the gauge, but also express yourself through the combo system. So to conclude, that's why I'm enjoying City of the Wolves a lot more than Street Fighter 6. They're both fantastic games. It all just depends on which one you prefer. I do recommend trying them both, especially because City of the Wolves is on sale at the moment and has come down in price if you haven't tried it, and vice versa. If you haven't played Street Fighter 6, give it a go. See which one you prefer, but playing the two, I definitely feel more at home and comfortable playing this game. Hope that's given more insight into what's going on with my fighting game journey. Any questions, any queries, always give me a shout, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.